In a small town in 1936, a woman sat at her vanity by lamplight. On the dresser in front of her were 3 things, and not one of them cost more than a few pennies. A boar bristle brush her mother had given her, a small porcelain dish with a hole in the lid where she saved the hair pulled from the brush each night, a pitcher of rainwater she had collected from the barrel out back that morning. She was about to turn 60, and the hair she brushed that night was thicker than her granddaughter's would be at 30. Your great-grandmother knew things about hair that almost no one alive today remembers. Number 11 was so simple that every farm wife in Iowa did it for free, and it built a barrier against breakage that a $40 salon treatment still cannot match. Number 4 was made on a kitchen stove for the cost of a teaspoon of sugar, and it held a wave for 2 full days. Number 1 was not a trick at all. It was the reason all the others worked. Hit that subscribe button because what you are about to learn is going to change how you think about every shampoo bottle in your shower. The big mass-market hair care brands rose in this country between 1930 and 1955, and they did not rise into a vacuum. They rose into homes where women already had the knowledge, and the industry's whole job was to convince your grandmother that what came in a bottle was better. Let us count down the 30 tricks the modern hair care industry hopes you never rediscover. Number 30. The Saturday night wash. In the 1930s and into the 1950s, most American women washed their hair once a week, often on Saturday night, so it would set fresh for church on Sunday. Daily washing was unheard of. The reason was not laziness. Hot water and the harsh alkaline soaps of the day stripped the scalp's natural oils, and those oils were the entire point. Today, the average American washes their hair 4 times a week or more, and the hair care industry counts on it. Every wash sells another bottle. That was the schedule. The next item was the tool that made it possible. Number 29. The boar bristle brush. Not a plastic paddle, a natural bristle brush, set in a wooden handle, the kind that came in a dresser set as a wedding gift. The bristles were stiff enough to reach the scalp and soft enough not to scratch it, and they did one thing no synthetic brush has ever done as well. They pulled sebum, the scalp's own oil, down the length of the hair shaft. Your grandmother's brush was a delivery system for the only conditioner she trusted. Boar bristle brushes today cost $25 to $40 new. Plastic paddle brushes cost $3, and the paddle sells more often because it breaks the hair instead of conditioning it. If the brush was the tool, the next habit was the rhythm. Number 28. 100 strokes at the vanity every night before bed. This is the practice everyone has heard of and almost no one understands. The Victorian beauty guides that carried the tradition forward were not chasing a magic number. They were prescribing a duration. 100 strokes, divided front and sides and back, took roughly 5 to 7 minutes. That was long enough to distribute the day's sebum from root to tip, to clear dust from the scalp before sleep, and to move blood to the follicles. Your grandmother was not counting. She was giving her hair 5 quiet minutes every night, and over 40 years it added up. That was the brush. The next trick was the water. Number 27. The rainwater rinse. In rural America before the war, the barrel at the corner of the house was not decoration. It caught soft water for laundry, for the garden, and for the final hair rinse on wash day. Most tap water in this country is hard water, which means it carries calcium and magnesium, and those minerals coat the hair shaft with a fine film that dulls shine. Rainwater carries none of it. A woman in western Kansas who rinsed her hair with rainwater got softer, glossier hair than a city woman today with a $40 Keelating shampoo. A rain barrel cost nothing. If rainwater was the soft option, the next trick made even hard water cooperate. Number 26. The apple cider vinegar rinse. A tablespoon of vinegar stirred into a pitcher of water, poured slowly through the hair after washing. The smell faded in minutes. The acid in the vinegar, around a pH of 3, flattened the cuticle so light bounced off the strand instead of scattering, and it dissolved any soap residue the rinse water left behind. Today, the same effect is sold as a clarifying treatment for $20 to $30 a bottle, and your grandmother made it from a teaspoon she could have used to dress a salad. If vinegar was for shine, the next trick was for lip. Number 25. The lemon juice rinse. Half a lemon squeezed into a cup of water and poured over hair before sitting on the back porch in the afternoon sun. The citric acid lifted the cuticle slightly, the sun did the rest, and a woman who started spring with light brown hair would have honey streaks by July. The modern industry sells the same effect as a balayage at the salon for around $200. The lemon, the sun and the porch were all free. That was the rinse for the morning. The next one was the rinse for the end. Number 24. The cool water final pour. After the wash, after the vinegar, the last thing your great-grandmother did was pour a pitcher of cool water over her head and stand there shivering for 10 seconds. The cool finish was a discipline, like rising before sunrise or wringing out a dish towel before hanging it. Every step in her routine was deliberate. Today, most people end a shower by stepping out into a steamy bathroom, with hot water still on the strand, and call it done. If the wash itself was a ritual, the deep treatments were where the Depression generation got clever. Number 23. The egg yolk wash. One whole egg, beaten with a fork in a teacup, worked through dry hair from root to tip, left to sit for 15 minutes, then rinsed with cool water because hot water would have scrambled it on the head. The yolk delivered protein and lecithin straight to the cuticle, and the lather, surprisingly, actually cleansed. A widow in a holler in eastern Kentucky did this once a week. The cost was 1 egg from her own hen house. The modern protein hair treatment that does the same thing runs anywhere from $20 to $60 at the salon. If the egg was the protein, the next item was the conditioner that came from the icebox. Number 22. The beer rinse. Flat beer, the kind left in a bottle from Saturday's supper, poured through clean hair on Sunday morning. The malt sugars coated the strand and gave fine hair body. Setting lotion during wartime was made the same way when commercial lotion was rationed. A 6-pack today runs about $10. A bottle of mousse runs about the same. The difference is the beer also tastes good. If the beer was for body, the next trick was for thickness from the scalp out. Number 21. The castor oil scalp massage. Thick, slow-pouring castor oil warmed in a saucer set in a pan of hot water, then rubbed slowly into the scalp with the fingertips. Often done on a Sunday evening, kerchief tied over the head, while the woman read or mended. Left on overnight, washed out in the morning. The ricinoleic acid in castor oil draws blood to the follicle, and consistent use over months thickens individual strands. Your grandmother did not have a clinical study to point at. She had her own grandmother's hair at 60, and that was study enough. If castor oil was for the scalp, the next oil was for the length. Number 20. The olive oil hot treatment. A small bowl of olive oil from the pantry, warmed gently on the stove, then fingertip massage through the lengths, especially the ends, wrapped in an old cotton towel and left for an hour. Olive oil has been used as a hair treatment around the Mediterranean for at least 2,000 years, and the Italian immigrant grandmothers who landed in American cities between 1900 and 1930 brought the practice with them. A cup of the olive oil treatment costs $1 today. The salon version runs around $80. If the wash and the treatments were the day, the night had its own rules. Number 19. The bedtime braid. Long hair was never left loose to sleep. A loose braid down the back, tied with a soft ribbon, kept the strands from twisting against the cotton pillowcase through 8 hours of friction. Friction is what causes breakage at those lengths, and breakage is what makes hair look thin at 60. Your grandmother did not call it protective styling, she called it getting ready for bed. The salon equivalent today is a $60 silk pillowcase and a $12 satin scrunchie. The braid was free. If the braid was protection from the inside, the cap was protection from the outside. Number 18. The sleeping cap. A cotton bonnet through the Depression years, a silk or rayon cap once those were available cheaper after the war. Worn over the braid, it held the style and kept the hair from snagging on the headboard. The modern silk bonnet sold for $30 online is the same garment your great-grandmother stitched from a remnant of dress fabric on a Sunday afternoon. That was the night. The next two items protected the strand by day. Number 17. The tail comb for parting. A long-handled, fine-toothed comb used to part the hair in clean sections rather than dragging a brush through a tangled crown. Your grandmother sectioned her hair before she brushed it. The tail comb did the sectioning, the brush did the smoothing. A brush forced through a knot tears the hair. A comb worked into a section eases the knot apart. The difference, over 40 years of mornings, is whether you still have hair at the temples. If the tail comb was for the scalp, the next comb was for the length. Number 16. The wide-toothed wooden comb on wet hair. Never a brush on wet hair. Wet hair is at its most fragile, the strand swollen and its bonds temporarily weakened, and dragging a brush through it is how you find a sink full of hair on a Tuesday morning. Your grandmother used a wide-toothed wooden or horn comb working from the ends up toward the roots. Today, the wide-toothed wet comb is sold as a specialty curl product for $15. The wooden comb on the 1935 vanity cost a nickel. That was the mechanics. The next items were the kitchen and the herb garden doing work the modern industry sells in bottles. Number 15. The chamomile tea rinse for light hair. 3 bags of chamomile were steeped strong in a pot, cooled, then poured slowly through blonde or light brown hair. It sat in the sun for 30 minutes if the woman could spare the time. It brought up gold tones the way nothing short of peroxide could, and unlike peroxide, it did not damage the strand. The Chlorane brand has built a 90-year-old French business on chamomile lightening shampoo. Your great-grandmother bought 3 tea bags for pennies. If chamomile was for light hair, the next item was for the dark. Number 14. The sage and rosemary rinse for dark hair. A handful of dried sage, a sprig of rosemary, simmered together in 2 cups of water for 30 minutes, strained and cooled. Poured through dark hair once a week. Over time it quietly darkened the silver coming in at the temples and gave brown hair a depth no synthetic conditioner can mimic. Today, the same effect is sold as a botanical glaze at the salon for around $90. The herbs are growing in your neighbour's window box. If sage was the rinse, the next herb was the tonic. Number 13. The nettle tea tonic. Stinging nettle, dried and brewed strong, was taken either as a daily tea or applied to the scalp as a rinse. Nettle is rich in iron and silica, both of which the hair needs to build itself. The Depression generation drank it because it was free and grew along every fence row. Today, nettle capsules at the health food store run $20 a bottle. The plant is still growing along the fence row. Almost no one knows what it is anymore. If nettle was the tonic, The next item was the treatment that thickened hair for 6 months at a stretch. Number 12. The henna treatment. Pure henna powder mixed with strong tea and a little lemon juice, left overnight to release its dye, then applied to the hair as a thick paste and wrapped in cloth for 3 to 4 hours. Rinsed out, the hair came out coloured, conditioned, and noticeably thicker. Henna binds to the hair shaft and fills in the small gaps in the cuticle, which is why women across North Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia have used it for thousands of years. Pure henna powder costs around $15 for enough to do 6 treatments. The salon glaze runs around $150 per visit. If the deep treatments were the heavy work, the next item was the smartest sequencing trick in the whole tradition. Number 11. The pre-wash oil soak. Your great-grandmother oiled her hair before she washed it, not after. A spoonful of whatever oil she had, olive or castor, or even rendered lard in the leanest years, worked through the lengths 20 minutes before she stepped into the bath. The oil coated the strand and protected it from the harshness of the wash itself. Modern shampoos contain detergents called sulfates that strip oil aggressively, and the standard advice is to wash first and condition after. The pre-wash oil flips that order, which is why a 1940s farm wife could wash with a harsh lye-based bar soap and still have soft hair afterwards. Today, the pre-wash oil is being marketed by every clean beauty brand on Instagram as a discovery. It was on every Mediterranean grandmother's vanity in 1935. Pause for a moment. Consider every item so far. Notice what they have in common. Every single one came out of the pantry, the henhouse, the garden, the rain barrel, or the dresser drawer. Every single one cost almost nothing. Every single one was knowledge that lived inside the home. Your grandmother did not need a $30 bottle because she had a kitchen. And then, something shifted. Dr. John Breck founded Breck Shampoo in Springfield, Massachusetts in 1930. The Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act passed in 1938, giving the Food and Drug Administration real authority over food and drugs, but only limited authority over cosmetics, a gap the industry has lobbied to preserve ever since. By the early 1940s, every American magazine carried full-page ads telling women that what they did at home was not enough. Number 10. The hair receiver. A small porcelain or celluloid dish no bigger than a teacup with a hole in the centre of the lid. Standard equipment on every American woman's dressing table from the late Victorian era through the 1950s. After her nightly 100 strokes, your great-grandmother would pull the loose hair from the brush, twist it into a small bundle, and push it through the hole in the lid. The hair was not waste, it was a resource. If the receiver was the storage, the next item was the use. Number 9. The saved hair rat. The collected hair was stuffed into a small net bag about 3 to 4 inches across and pinned underneath the hairstyle to give it volume. A woman with thinning hair at 60 did not buy extensions. She made a rat out of her own saved hair and pinned it in. It matched her colour perfectly because it was her colour. Modern hair thickening fibres in a shaker bottle, the kind that go for $30 at the drugstore, are basically commercialised rat. If the rat was the indoor solution, the next item was the outdoor one. Number 8. The headscarf in the wind and sun. When your great-grandmother went out to weed the garden, to feed the chickens, to walk the half-mile to the post office, she tied a scarf or kerchief over her hair. Not vanity, practicality. Ultraviolet light breaks down the protein in the hair shaft. Wind dries the strand. Dust gets into the cuticle. The scarf blocked all 3. Today, women spend $200 a year on ultraviolet protectant hairsprays sold as an innovation. The scarf was a square of cotton, often made from a worn-out dress. Number 7. The less is more heat rule. If the scarf protected against the sun, the next item protected against the iron. Heated curling tongs existed by the 1920s. Marcel waving irons existed since the 1870s. But your great-grandmother used them sparingly, often only for a wedding, a dance, or Christmas dinner. She knew, in the same wordless way she knew not to plant tomatoes before Mother's Day, that heat was costly to the strand. Modern flat irons reach 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and women run them through their hair every weekday morning. Your grandmother used heat the way she used good china, rarely and on purpose. If heat was rationed, the daily curl came from somewhere else. Number 6. The pin curl set without heat. Damp hair divided into small sections, each section coiled flat against the head and held with a bobby pin. Done at the kitchen table while listening to the evening radio program. Slept on overnight under a sleeping cap. In the morning, the pins came out and the hair fell in soft, lasting waves. No iron, no heat, no damage. A Tony home perm in 1948 promised the same effect with chemicals for around $2. A trip to the salon cost $5. The bobby pins cost 3 cents. Here is what most people miss about every item so far. None of them required a salon. None of them required a professional. They lived in the home, passed from mother to daughter, neighbour to neighbour, at the kitchen sink and the back porch and the church basement. And then, between 1940 and 1955, that whole network of knowledge was systematically replaced. The middle-class American woman started going to the hairdresser once a week to have her hair washed and set, because the home permanent kit and the salon visit together had convinced her that the kitchen was no longer the right place for hair care. Your great-grandmother knew otherwise. Number 5. The homemade setting lotion. During wartime rationing, when commercial setting lotion vanished from store shelves along with sugar and nylons, American women improvised. Flat beer worked, sugar water worked. So did a thin gelatin solution. They sponged it through damp hair before pinning. The hair held. The wave lasted 3 days. The cost was a teaspoon of whatever was in the cupboard. Today, setting spray runs around $15 a can and is one of the most marked up products in the hair care aisle. If the setting lotion was the spray, the next item was the GL. Number 4. The flaxseed gel. A quarter cup of whole flax seeds boiled in 2 cups of water for 10 minutes until the water turned into a clear, slightly thick GL. Then strained through a cheesecloth into a jar. That was the gel. Applied to damp hair, it held a curl or a wave without crunch, without flake, and without alcohol drying out the strand. It kept in the icebox for a week. Cost maybe 20 cents for a jar that would last most of a month. Modern curl gels run $12 to $30 a bottle. If the gel was the styling, the next item was the foundation underneath all of it. Number 3. The Sunday scalp massage. 5 minutes of slow, firm fingertip pressure across the whole scalp, often performed by a daughter on her mother or a granddaughter on her grandmother. Done at the vanity on Sunday afternoon, the day of rest. It increased blood flow to the follicles. It loosened the scales that build up over a week. And it built a connection between generations that the modern hair care industry has no way to sell. The Depression generation understood that hair grew from a living system, not from a bottle. A modern scalp massager costs $10 online. The hands of someone who loves you cost nothing and are worth more. Here is what the industry had to convince your grandmother to forget. Not any single trick. The whole story underneath them. The story that home was the right place to take care of hair. The story that the kitchen and the garden and the rain barrel were sophisticated, not primitive. The story that a woman at 60 did not need a chemical fix. She needed time. Once the industry replaced that story, every individual practice in the countdown so far became easy to abandon because the foundation underneath them was gone. Number 2. The diet at the kitchen table. Eggs from the henhouse, organ meats on Sunday, leafy greens from the garden, beans and lentils in the winter, bone broth simmering on the back of the stove 3 days a week. The Depression generation did not eat whole foods because they were enlightened. They ate them because that was what was on the table. And the hair on a 60-year-old farm woman in 1945 told the truth about it. Hair is made of protein. The body builds it from what you eat. Modern American diets are thin on the very nutrients hair needs, and the hair care industry sells the missing nutrition back in vitamin form for $40 a bottle. Your great-grandmother got the same nutrients at supper for the cost of an egg. And number 1, the slow hair routine itself. This is the trick every other trick depends on. Your grandmother's hair was thick at 60, not because of any single practice in the countdown. It was thick because the entire routine took time, and she gave it time. 5 minutes of brushing at night, 10 minutes for the Sunday scalp massage, an hour for the henna or the oil soak, a weekly wash that included a vinegar rinse and a cool water pour and a careful comb out before the braid. None of it took an unreasonable amount of time, but all of it together amounted to maybe 2 hours a week of attention to her hair. That is the number. 2 hours a week. The Depression generation gave their hair 2 hours a week. The modern American woman gives her hair 15 minutes a week and supplements with $200 a month in product. And then she wonders why her hair at 50 looks like her grandmother's at 80. The single forgotten trick that holds everything together is not a substance and not a tool. It is the willingness to treat hair as a craft instead of a chore. The reason your great-grandmother's hair was thicker at 60 than yours is at 40 is that she gave it the time, and you have been told for 90 years that you do not have to. That is the lie. The product cannot replace the time. So here is the challenge. Pick one item from the countdown and try it this week. The apple cider vinegar rinse is the easiest place to start because it takes about 4 minutes and you almost certainly have vinegar in your kitchen right now. The boar bristle brush at night is the next easiest. If you want something more ambitious, try the castor oil scalp massage on a Sunday evening. I tried 2 of these myself before recording. The apple cider vinegar rinse and the boar bristle brushing nightly for 30 days. By the end of the first week, the shine was back in a way I had not seen since my 20s. By the end of the month, I was finding noticeably less hair in the shower drain. Total cost around $14, including the brush. Drop a comment and tell me which one you are going to try. I want to know whether the apple cider vinegar rinse scares more people than the castor oil scalp massage. Because in the comments, it is usually a close race. Either way, pick one. Give it a month. Your grandmother knew what she was doing.